Hello and welcome to Living Well with Teens. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor, and I'm here with my colleague and friend, Dr. Beth Halbert, America's Teenologist. And we couldn't be in better hands today because what two words do we think of together often? Rebellious teen. And whether that teen is in your home or within your heart, we're going to talk about both those things today. So remember to go and visit drbeth.com for more information because she's got great stuff for you, including a free ebook called Embracing Defiance. And if you want to get more information about your relationship with yourself and other people, go to forrelationshiphelp.com, and there's lots of free stuff there for you. If you happen to be dealing with what I call a chronically difficult person in your life, I call them hijackals. Go and download the free ebook there at hijackals.com called How to Spot a Hijackal. And remember, you can download Dr. Beth's book, Embracing Defiance, at drbeth.com. So, Dr. Beth.
Yes.
How are you today, and what's up?
Well, I have a pretty serious experience with rebellion. I worked at City of Hope Hospital about 2 years ago, and I just found out last night that one of the teens that I had been working with passed away this last month.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And passed away because of rebellion.
Oh, rebellion to the treatment? Rebellion to what?
Rebellion to wearing a mask.
Wow.
And ended up getting a cold and was not able to have the transplant and passed away. And I have so much love for this young girl and so much love for her mama. And so I'm just really getting the significance of this. And I'm also working with a lot of parents right now, right at the end of the year, of their teenagers that may or may not graduate from high school, may or may not graduate from junior high, may or may not graduate from kindergarten because of acting out rebellion. And one of the things that I experienced with the hospital was exhaustion. And talking to a parent this morning, and the parents get tired of the teenagers' anger and tired of the rebellion. Why should I graduate? How's this even going to serve me anyway? And all of that comes from the pain and the hurt and the fear of failure. And I'm actually doing a call this month called Own Your Story, Uplift Your Life. And it's about making peace with our stories around failure. I'd love to have you come join us. It's with a bunch of powerhouse women. I can talk to you about that as well. But so this topic is really up for me right now. My book is Embracing Defiance, and this is my love.
Yes, and the strange sounding love that it is, dealing with rebellion and embracing defiance. But, you brought up the human side of this, because there's a part of us when we meet rebellion that we just want to grab them and shake them and say, do it because I said so.
Exactly.
Or do it because it's good for you. Or, you have to, or whatever. And so often we don't either have the skills or take the time or both to find out what's really going on. What's the fear behind the rebellion, right?
Yes, the feeling, the fear, the upset, what's going on behind it? What's causing the acting out instead of just trying to fix the acting out? And the reason I love this is because I was one of those kids in my own mind. My parents may disagree, but I was one of those kids that didn't have a voice. And I jumped when my parents said how high. And then when I was 30 years old, I'm trying to find my voice and be able to say no, and giving myself permission still to this day to set my boundaries and to stand in my power. And I work with powerhouse women who I've given my life to their spouses, to their kids, and they're running around with their tongues hanging out. So it's critical that we give ourselves permission to embrace our defiance, embrace our no.
Yes, and that puts it in a broader context too, because it's not a power game, and that seems to be the way that it first strikes most people. It's me or you, and I'm going to win, and especially when I'm the parent.
Yeah.
And that whole power game is not really what it's about. There's so much underneath that. You know, I talk a lot about inclusive compassion, and the reason that I created that phrase is because in our culture, we have all kinds of talk about have compassion for people and feel sorry for people and do for people and make excuses for people and make allowances and do all kinds of things like that. And yet we forget to include ourselves in the compassion. And that's why I call it inclusive compassion.
I love it.
So it's important for us to include ourselves in the compassion when we're standing there with someone who's in rebellion in front of us. Because that natural do or die, I'm going to take you out, or my way or the highway, or power over, seems to come forth because of our own fear of she who will not be obeyed, you know, or he who will not be obeyed.
And what I also find, you know, no wonder we love each other so much, because my 10 keys to compassion is all about self-compassion first, taking care of yourself first, dealing with your inner world first, because we can't take care of the children until we give ourselves the love, until we love ourselves in our rage, until we love ourselves in our upset, until we love ourselves in our breakdown. And then we have more compassion for our kids, our partners, and everyone else in the world.
Well,
I love that inclusive compassion.
Well, and what you're saying too is part of our culture that is kind of I don't want to get into the feeling, so suck it up and keep going.
Right.
Right. So it's not unusual that people get into, if I'm sucking it up and keeping going, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're going to suck it up and keep on going too.
Yeah.
So we keep perpetuating this cultural myth that there's something wrong with being human, having emotions, feeling certain things that the other person is not feeling, and being allowed to give them a voice and to allow others to give voice to that too. And it's really calling forth a lot of self-reflection, because we've got to sit down and figure out, is that true for me? Am I squashing that compassionate voice for myself? Am I squashing the right to be assertive? Like you were talking about, of course, you're going to give. Well, next week I've got a free webinar on the why it's important to be assertive and how to do it.
Right.
And it is. It's absolutely important, because it changes your life when you understand.
Yes.
And here we are saying, okay, come and be fully present and be allowing yourself and the other person to be heard in a situation which would often be seen as a standoff.
Yeah, and how to do that. I love assertive. I used to teach in corporate America, managing conflict. And assertiveness is win-win. And what most parent teens are in is win-lose. But what happens if you as a parent squash your child's soul, squash their spirit, win, then you end up losing. And as a child, if you kill off your parent with your crazy behavior, you end up losing the love of your life, your parent. So it is so essential to have a right. My needs need to be met. Your needs need to be met, so that we both get to have a win-win. I love that.
And sometimes in that there's going to be compromise, but my goal when I'm helping people is to go beyond compromise and get to collaboration. And to learn to be collaborative with another human being, whether that's your teenager, your partner, or your coworker, is a whole different thing than going in with we've got to compromise, you know. There's a downturn to the idea of compromise, because it means, well, I'm not going to get what I want.
Yeah.
But collaboration is to help us each get the most of what each of us wants,
Yeah.
And that involves some negotiation, and you need those skills.
Yeah. Energy, creativity, looking outside the box, finding something that maybe is a better win than what you wanted or what they wanted. I was talking to a parent this morning, and she has this, she was giving something back to someone. They ended up giving something back to her that was beyond her wildest dreams. Couldn't have even created it in her own mind. Spirit given. And it is, if we get in these boxes of my way or the highway, I'm right, you're wrong, scarcity mindset, I've got to take care of me and squish you and your thoughts and your needs and your desires. What happens is it stops all the creativity.
Yeah, it shuts down the relationship as well. Like if I'm not being heard, if I'm not being respected, if my ideas are not welcome and you won't entertain my feelings, why would I have a relationship with you? I'd rather slam the door, go to my room, slam the door, and put the pillow over my head.
Absolutely. So true. I get that one viscerally. And our topic is today, when you tell them, they rebel. So how does I say that? If you tell me, how does that go?
When you tell me what to do, I rebel.
Yes. And in my concepts, I deal with this thing called the inner 7-year-old. And this is like the inner know-it-all, the inner critic, the inner should monster, the little good girl, the one that puts us on the hamster wheel and moves our cheese around and is trying to get us to be perfect. I'm sick of being perfect. I'm sick of trying to be perfect. How about you, Dr. Shaler? Have you given up on that one a long time ago?
Well, I don't know how does a person be perfect?
Exactly. Exactly. And as a parent, when I give you all you got to do is A, B, C, and D, and then you can be as beautiful and perfect as I am. And they look at you and they're like, you don't look like you're having so much fun anyway. And I'm not sure I want to be you anyway. So when you tell them versus when you say, what are you wanting to live into? Then our brains go on a fishing expedition to go find the answer. If I ask you what's wrong with you, your brain goes with what's wrong with me. If I say what's brilliant about you, your brain goes, well, here, let me count the ways.
Or for many people, if someone said what's brilliant about you, they would have been so squashed early on that they would say, well, I'm not sure I'm brilliant at all. I don't know how to answer that question.
Right.
So,
yes.
we're talking about layers and layers of things that have been embedded in us. And if we return the conversation for a moment to dealing with a teenager when we're the parent or the authority figure, are we adding to this cultural idea of telling this child that they know nothing and they don't have their feelings and they don't get to experience and express what they want? Or are we actually willing to open ourselves up to a new way of being with our teens?
Yeah. And what I hear a lot of times with parents when they see the title of my book, I think what they think I'm saying is, well, just be a doormat.
Yeah, just let me interject there.
What's that?
The book Dr. Beth is talking about is called Embracing Defiance, and you can get it free here. But you can see why with that title, what she's saying may be so.
But the tagline is Embracing Defiance. When your child, helping your child express their unique voice while keeping your sanity. What could also be on there is also while getting your needs met. What could also be on there is while keeping your boundaries. So letting them be mad when you say no. You can't have the car keys while you're drunk. No, that's not going to happen. That's loving I was talking to a parent and her child was stoned in a car and stoned. And the parent said, come in. And the child, thankfully, who's, about 4 feet taller than his mom, actually followed. And there was no fighting, and there was no yelling, and there was no threatening, and they're still in relationship. And thank God she was able to keep her child safe. Now, many parents would say, well, I would. And if you did all those things to this particular child, this child would just run away. He's got the brains, he's got the body, he's got the wherewithal, the confidence. Don't mess with him. So we need to get on the same side of the table with these kids and have a way to bring forth their greatness without trying to control them.
Yeah, and that means that you have to be somewhat self-aware yourself. You know, you work with teens and their parents, and I work with adults and couples. So getting people to be self-aware, letting them give themselves permission to what I call do the work, which is catch up with themselves, really, to find out who am I now and what do I want and what's my vision for my life and what are my values and how am I expressing them. This absolutely is on the same page with becoming a parent who can engage the way that you're talking about, Dr. Beth, because many parents are not equipped yet to do that. Their own upbringing still has them rebelling
within as well.
Yes, and so now we have two rebellious people. One who's denying it because I'm the parent and I'm going to tell you what to do, and it's all tapped into the rebellion I haven't gotten over, and yet I got a rebellious teenager in front of me that's really dancing on my last nerve because, after all, I'm the parent and I'll tell him or her what to do.
Right, and it is with the children these days having so much access to the internet and so much access to global information. I actually had a little 5-year-old that got caught watching porn on her parents' phone. 5.
Wow.
I don't even know if I would know how to get to a site like that. But at 5, she's figured out. She and a 6-year-old who taught her, a 6-year-old, were hiding under and seeing these things. So telling the kids don't surf, telling the kids don't XYZ. How's that working for you?
Well, in that case, not so well. But you know, you're testing something that we could talk about another day. I think we're going to raise some very interesting teens in this digital age, where I go to the grocery store and I see 1- and 2-year-olds being babysat by an iPad.
You bet.
Okay, so now I'm not even in relationship with my child. They're in relationship with whatever is on there. Hopefully there are some parental controls. But, you know, it highlights something we probably need to talk about. But before we run out of time, let's give some hints now for what to do in the face of rebellion. What are good things to say or do when your actual teen, of whom you are the parent, is defiant?
Well, you know, I think you named it. The first one, the first thing, stop, drop, and roll. The first thing is self-compassion. So if I want to kill this kid, or I'm about to, you know, have a heart attack because my child is sitting there in a car stoned out of his mind, or my 5-year-old is surfing porn, or any other crazy, defiant thing that these children have access to or can get into, the very first thing is breathe.
Yes.
Go within. Give yourself permission to feel like you're losing your mind. Have an entire support system. Connect with people like us, so that when your adult has left the building and you're, you know, running through the house chasing your child, ready to kill him. I mean, literally, the stories that I hear with parents, the adult self has left the building.
Oh, sure.
Fear-mongering is all that's left.
Yeah.
Fear and rage is all that's left. So breathe, self-compassion, and then once you're back into a space of self-awareness, instead of telling, which is the name of our show today, the number one word of advice I have is to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Sweetheart, what can we do? What should we do? Next time you're in your car and you're high, And thank God you got out of the car. Thank you for doing that. Had you not gotten out of the car, what are some things I could have done? And ask the teenager
to solve the problem.
And hopefully they'll say, well, you could have called the police, which is one thing. Call the police and let the police catch him to at least keep him alive, if they even have time to do that.
Well, I really appreciate what you're saying, because my youngest child, he's very big. At 15, he was 6'4" and playing basketball and lifting weights. And so my other kids had left by then, and I am with this child, and I'm on my own with this child.
Wow.
And what I did was, I was looking to buy a retreat center anyway, so I bought a retreat center way out in the country where even the school bus didn't come that far.
Yes.
And I made him 100% dependent on me. So the relationship that we had, much as it wasn't always as wonderful as we talk about what can be, it was very clear from the start that, we're in a collaborative relationship. You want to go to play basketball, then there are certain things you have to do, and I'll be happy to take you. You don't want to do those things? Well, you're choosing not to go to basketball, and we won't have a rebellion. We'll just say, oh, okay, so you're choosing not to go to basketball today.
And the key, just if I may, the key on that one is many parents do that exact same thing, but they do it from rage. They do it from consequence. They do it from punishment. And
Yes.
they do it from payback.
Yes.
Then what happens is the child completely misses the point, and then you now become their target of rage.
That's right. And I was piggybacking on what you said, to sit down and say, okay, like, how are we going to solve this? You have things you want from me. I have things I want from you and for you.
Yes.
How do we work this out? So it was a clear, calm arrangement and agreement.
I love it.
That even if he escalated and, called me a few choice names, it didn't change the arrangement. The most important thing I learned in terms of parenting when I had 3 kids on my own, working full time as well. One night I was lying in the bathroom. We had one bathroom, three kids and me. And I was in the tub, and there was a sign on the door, unless you're bleeding, don't knock. And,
I love it.
And I was in there, and I thought, what could I possibly do here? And it came to me, and I sat down with my kids, and I taught them the word non-negotiable. There are certain things that are non-negotiable. You can yell, scream, threaten, do anything you want, and they are non-negotiable. And when I say to you, that's non-negotiable, honey, you need to get that whole idea that no matter what you do or say, this is not changing.
And the key to non-negotiable, they need to get it. What I find with the parents that I'm working with is it's less about the kids getting it, and it's more about the parents getting it.
Yeah, because parents give in, parents randomly reinforce. So you can't have it for 4 times, and the 5th time you can. Okay, that's shot.
Yep.
That's not going to work. We've got to renegotiate. So it's really important, and it's for everybody to get that you're not stuck with the parenting paradigm. You can shift, you can change, and you do that by shifting and changing within yourself and your ideas about parenting, wherever they came from, and your parenting experience of being parented. And then you can get new paradigms. And that's what we're all about here at Living Well with Teens, is giving you new paradigms. And we always invite you to ask your questions, because it's a great place. And if you have a question for us right now that you'd like us to answer on another show, send your question to blab@forrelationshiphelp.com. And we'll be sure to answer that question in our next show. So remember to go to drbeth.com, just as she's holding up, and download that wonderful book at no cost. And I understand that wonderful book's just been included in a best of list of must-read things. So congratulations, Dr. Beth.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shaler.
And know, too, that if you're dealing with what I call a chronically difficult person, That's a person who is a hijackal, and the definition of that are people who hijack relationships for their own purposes while relentlessly scavenging them for power, status, and control. If you think you might have one of those, go to hijackals.com and download the free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. So another wonderful use of our time to share these great ideas. And any last word of wisdom, Dr. Beth?
Well, one of my favorite sayings is, are you willing to be wrong in order to be in love? Are you willing to be wrong in order to stay in connection, collaboration, relationship with your child? So we will be talking about new possible paradigms. We would love for you to challenge us. Bring it. That's my favorite thing. Bring the challenges, because that's what brings us into new ways of seeing each other. So
yeah, and also just in reference to what you just said, last week's show was a great one for that. So remember that you can go back and lab and put our name in, or you can go to Dr. Beth's YouTube channel or mine, and you can look at all the old replays of the shows that we've done. And it's that we try to build one concept on the other, even though they're standalone shows. We do bring things forward. So we invite you to use that resource because it's always there for you.
And they can also subscribe. So
yes.
Where's that subscription button?
It's always at the bottom. When you come to a blab, it's always right there at the bottom. It says subscribe when you click on a link for a show of ours. So do subscribe. Then you'll get a little notification that we've scheduled a blab, and then you'll get a notification when we're on air. And that can remind you, so you don't have to put it in your calendar and worry you'll miss something.
And it's hard to get all of the concepts and all the different ways that come show up. So bring your challenges, bring your questions, because there may be something that you haven't addressed that we both would like to give you another perspective to.
Yeah, and I think too, Dr. Beth, it might be wise for us to offer a program one day soon about the rebellious teenagers within ourselves and how to recognize when they're rising.
Let's do it.
Yeah, maybe next week we should do that, because it will connect directly with how to get yourself in shape with your inner rebellious teen in order to parent better with the one in front of you.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
All right. So we'll do that. And my tip for ending today is again about self-compassion. You know, you're not a bad person because you got angry. Those things are not connected. Notice that anger is something that you have, and you get to decide what you do with it. Don't beat yourself up if you don't know what to do with your rebellious teen. Learn how. When you're confronted with something, don't think I should know that.
Right.
Not the accurate answer. It's I could know that. Where do I find it?
Love
and
it.
That's why we're here for you, is to give you a place to find it fast and to get your questions answered. Because many times you can read a whole lot of stuff on the internet, even if you're 5 looking at porn. But you can read a whole lot of stuff and it doesn't sink in because it's not the answer to your question. So that's why we invite you to submit your questions right here on the show. Or again, you can send a question to blab@forrelationshiphelp.com, and I keep track of those for our blab. So remember where to find us here. You can find Dr. Beth at, of course, drbeth.com, and you can find me at forrelationshiphelp.com. And that's not just for finding us, that's for all kinds of free resources and information right there at your fingertips. So until next time, we're glad you were here, and we look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Shaler. Loved talking with you as always.
Me too. Bye-bye.
Bye.